because it's not all roses, but I loved it. The scariest part about being a pilot in Trinidad had nothing to do with flying an airplane. Everybody thinks, oh my God, she's flying an airplane, oh my God. No, that was my joy, as you could tell from when I read the prologue. It was the scariest part about being a pilot in Trinidad had to do with the crime in Trinidad. In those years, the crime situation in Trinidad grew from surprising for a little Caribbean island to shocking. The root causes are too many and too complex for this kind of book. But the fact remains that in that beautiful, multidimensional tropical island which I love, the scourge of crime was and still is real, tangible, and very terrifying. Now, Trinidadians, anybody from Trinidad here? You know what I'm talking about. That's why you are here, right? But I was living there and I was following my dream and flying airplanes. Put yourself in my position for a moment. I am a little girl with wearing a pilot's uniform, jumping in the car at 3 in the morning to go to the airport to fly an airplane in Trinidad and coming home the same way. And the crimes. It's like being in the wild, wild west, that place, right? So, to be seen as someone with wealth or prestige, and pilots were believed to have both, was dangerous in Trinidad. You risked being targeted, robbed, kidnapped, even killed, and your family was also at risk. Pilots and their families were considered prime targets, especially because we were often away and our families were back home. Vulnerable. Primarily for this reason, I decided early on to keep a low profile about being a BWIA pilot. Also, it was my personality to do so as well. I know of fellow pilots who were held up at gunpoint and their families terrorized. Flight attendants' cars were pursued down the highway with bandits shooting at them, and the flight attendants cringing on the ground. This really happened. Life in Trinidad at that time was like living in the wild, wild west, and I resolved to do everything I could to stay safe. So I tried the best, and I prayed a lot. In those days, I lived alone. My flight schedule included a hefty proportion of night flights, so I was often on the road heading to the airport or from the airport in the wee hours of the morning when most people were fast asleep except for those bandits. I'd like to share my typical routine, this is the day in the life part, for a nighttime departure with you. Because people see the uniform, they see the travel, they think the money, they see all the wondrous things of being a pilot, but they don't think of the other sides. And this book will show you both sides. The love, the desire to do this with all my heart, and the challenges that were inherent as in the journey. Yeah? So, let's say the flight departs at 4 a.m. 7 p.m., go to bed to ensure proper rest for my flight ahead. 1 a.m., when the alarm sounds, prepare for departure, keeping the lights off so anyone who might be watching the lady pilot's house, that's how some people knew me, won't realize that I'm on the move. The street light outside provides enough illumination for breakfast, showering, and dressing, but not for the lipstick. I'll have to do that at the airport. I put on my basic uniform, black pants, white shirt, but I leave off any identifying markers, no emblems, no epaulette, no wings, no hats. My pilot's hat and bag are ready in the car. I put them in the night before. I pull a light sweater over my white shirt to make it a little less white. 2 a.m., get ready to leave home. I'd already stored my bags in the car the night before. I want to make a speedy departure this morning. Standing at the door, my keys in hand for doors, I have more than one door, safety, and vehicle, I scan the outside for movement of any kind. Nothing. Swiftly, I open both the main door, the metal grill gate. I'm at a moment of maximum exposure here as I turn around to lock both of them, fully visible under the security light that you have to have outside your door in Trinidad. I lock both doors and I click open the car and I jump in and immediately lock the car doors and breathe, catch my breath. So far, so good. Anybody imagine that this would be part of my life before? I start the car and reverse into the street, so very vulnerable as I turn out and position to drive down the pitch dark road. I peer into the blackness, aware that every bush or every shrub could hide a bad man, that any shadow might jump out and shoot. They had guns in Trinidad, okay? The moment I'm clear, I accelerate, surge away. My car always in top condition. I always had made sure I had a really good car. Ready for a speedy departure and a possible car chase. And yes, I had a car chase once. Once I did have a scary car. I should read this book. Once I did have a scary car chase at night, but that's another story. I breathe normally again. I made it, but I'm still alert, watching behind for possible followers. They trained us that if somebody bumped into you from behind, don't stop. Okay? Once somebody did bump into behind and I did stop and I jumped out and then I realized, what have I done? That's not in the book. So they were nice people. So now for the 40-minute drive to the airport. Both route choices lead me through a no man's land where in the event of a flat tire or a system failure, I will be a very tasty morsel for any human vultures that happen by. A little female pilot all alone stranded in her car on the highway in the dark night of Trinidad. That scenario just did not bear thinking about. In case you think I am over dramatizing this, let me tell you about an incident that I actually did experience. One rainy, misty morning, I was making the same run to the airport. Because of the conditions, I was driving more slowly than normal, which saved me from running at high speed over the logs that had been placed in the middle of the road of the highway by bandits to derail vehicles so that they could crash and the occupants would then become prey. My slower than normal speed and my pilot's reflexes allowed me to maneuver around this series of logs in the rain on the slippery road. As they blurred by, I spotted the group of men clustered at the side of the highway waiting. I don't know if they got somebody else, but they didn't get me that day. This experience was the reality. Other times, bandits strewed nails on the highway and waited for the resulting flat tire stop. So believe this, I am not exaggerating the danger of going to work and coming home from work as a pilot in those days. The miracle is that in all those years, so few of us did not get trapped, and that I, so very vulnerable as a female pilot, never got trapped at all. On arriving at the airport, I breathed a sigh of relief. In the car park, I put on my lipstick, my bars, that's the epaulets, and hat, and I emerged, head high and beautiful, to enter the airport as a BWIA pilot. 2:45 a.m. check-in time. Now for the part I love to do, the part I live to do. It's time to fly.